Ringside Report Radio, which is 11 o'clock Wednesdays and Fridays right here on TSN 690. And, of course, ringsidereport.net for the website. And Dave Simon MMA for Twitter. It is Dave Simon.
You said Twitter like Mo Khan
does. I was going to say, I kind of said it like Mo Khan.
Twitter.
You were in Toronto yesterday for UFC 152, a much hyped event, just for the simple fact that it was John Bones Jones, after refusing the last pay-per-view and essentially canceling it on his own, basically. I hear that it lived up to the hype.
Yeah, it was one hell of a fight. It went 4 rounds. John Bones Jones winning with an Americana arm lock, also called a key lock, if you will. Very nice submission move. A basic move, but he was able to beat up Vitor Belfort and really tire him out and cut him. And I mean, it was a beating from John Jones on Vitor Belfort. But Vitor almost won the fight. John Jones persevered. He talked at the post-fight press conference about this was a real opportunity to show that he could be a warrior and he could fight through adversity. And in the first round, it looked like we were going to see the first legit loss for Johnny Bones Jones, as Vitor Belfort, on his back, as he was taken down by Jones, went for an armbar and had it locked in very deep. And it looked like John Jones was maybe going to be forced to submit. He said at the post-fight press conference that he was prepared to have his arm snap and break because he was not giving up. He was not going to lose the title like this. And he was able
and that's what it takes.
Yeah, that's what it takes. I mean, sometimes you can have an armbar pretty deep, but not deep enough to fully break it, but deep enough to do some damage. And he said he might have nerve damage in his bicep. Jones did show up, showing the effects of that armbar at the post-fight press conference. He had his arm in a sling, and he was going to go get x-rays. So I guess everybody's going to wait and see how John Jones is. Hopefully he's not injured, and he will be able to come back sooner rather than later. But a very gutsy performance from John Jones. He almost got caught in that first round. A very impressive performance from Vitor Belfort as well. A lot of people writing him off. I thought the fight would finish a lot sooner than it did. Vitor stuck it out, took a beating, took those vicious elbows from John Jones, who really does have some of the best ground and pound in the business. Sick elbows, and he's so long, he's so lanky that he can do it from the guard. He doesn't always have to pass the guard to land those shots because he's just so tall and his arms are so long that he can land those elbows from that position. But the problem is when you're in that position and you're throwing elbows, you're also vulnerable to get your arm caught in an armbar, which is what happened to him. But he was able to push off and kind of get his arm out of that position, shake it off, and then pass and avoid getting tapped out. But it was very, very close in that first round, but the rest of the fight was all John Jones. Even that first round, I would have scored it for Jones. He beat up Vitor Belfort. He cut him open pretty nasty in that first round, and he continued to beat him up for rounds 2, 3, until finally in round 4, I think Vitor just didn't have it in him anymore. He couldn't keep him in the guard. Jones advancing to a crucifix position, locking in that Americana armbar, and was able to finish him off and submit Vitor Belfort. Very impressive performance from John Jones.
In terms of Jones, you and I talked a little bit about this off air. This is kind of one of those things where he had to just gut one out after getting injured in the first round, and he came back after that injury, and now that we know more about it after the fight, it makes you all that more impressed with what he was able to do. What was the fans' reception after the fight? Was the crowd rooting for him, and where does he go from here?
I think that the crowd came around for John Jones at the end of the fight because it was such an impressive performance, but they were heavily behind Vitor for the majority of that fight. John Jones got booed when he came out. Vitor was, cheered very, very strongly by the crowd. A lot of Vitor chants going out throughout the fight, really urging the guy to come and bring the fight to John Jones. I don't know what it is, but people in Toronto don't like John Jones. And people around the MMA world don't seem to like Jon Jones very much. I think that he will win the crowd back. You can't help but like this guy because he's one of the best fighters in the business, if not the best. He's finishing fights, and his fights are always exciting, except for that Rashad Evans fight in his performance just before last night. Not the most exciting fight, but I put a lot of that blame on Rashad for playing defense for the majority of that one. So, you can't help but enjoy watching Jon Jones if you like MMA. He's fantastic to watch. You might not like his attitude. You might not like, him not taking fights on short notice, but you got to respect him, and you got to enjoy at least seeing him in the cage. His fights speak for themselves.
Now, you were in Toronto for this, including with the post-game press conference. How was this fight received by Dana White, the president?
He was very happy. He was very happy with the end result. How can you not be, right? He was very, very happy with that.
The marquee guy won. That's what he's concerned about.
No, I don't think so. I think he was just concerned with the putting on a good show. I don't think he really cares who wins. I think if Jones would have lost, it would have been a great story. Vitor Belfort's not supposed to win that fight. He's the old guy, comes in, becomes a champion. I think that would have been a really cool story, and they could have run with that and made money off that. Now
on
they can
rematch or
yeah, of course they would have had the rematch, and as they say, there's always more money in the rematch. So I don't really think, he doesn't really have a stake in the matter. He doesn't care who wins or loses. He was just happy that they put on a good fight. And that's usually what Dana White wants, and that's usually what everybody wants, including myself. I want to see good fights, and that's what we saw last night at UFC 152. It was a stacked card, and pretty much every fight on that card, except for that Roger Hollett-Matt Hamill fight, not the most impressive there, but everything else was excellent. And the co-main event as well. I know a lot of people not very happy with Joseph Benavidez and Demetrius Johnson. The first ever flyweight champion in the UFC was crowned. Demetrius Johnson winning a 5-round decision. I was, it wasn't the most exciting fight, but it was a good fight. It was a good competitive fight between two guys that are really at the top of their division. It got boos in the crowd. I don't really know why they were doing that. I thought it was a good fight, and really a great card, top to bottom.
Dave Simon chatting some MMA with us. You can check him out on ringsidereport.net. Dave, elsewhere in this fight, Canadians. You said there was some good Canadian content here.
Yeah, a guy that I've seen a lot here in Montreal. I'm sure a lot of Quebec MMA fans are familiar with Mitch Gagnon. He's from Sudbury, Ontario. He was the ringside MMA champion at featherweight. He's a bantamweight now in the UFC. And it's great to see a guy like Mitch Gagnon, who was unsuccessful in his first fight in the UFC, taking on a very tough Brian Caraway, but now he steps back and got a very impressive victory in the preliminaries over Walal Watson, submitting him via rear naked choke in the first round. Very impressive stuff from Mitch Gagnon, knocking down Watson and then finishing him off with that choke. Also, other Canadians on the card. We saw Sean Pearson from Toronto. He got a big win over Lance Benoist. Pearson with a unanimous decision win there. Good performance by Pearson. He took a beating in that fight, but he was able to dish it out as well. TJ Grant from Nova Scotia, a unanimous decision victory over Evan Dunham. Maybe the biggest victory in TJ Grant's career. TJ Grant is a guy that fought at welterweight earlier in his career and has made a drop now to 155 pounds at lightweight, and he improved last night to 3-0 as a lightweight competitor, and the win over Evan Dunham, very, very impressive for TJ Grant to get that victory, also taking home the fight of the night bonus. So a great night for Nova Scotia's TJ Grant. Not such a great night for Nova Scotia's Roger Hollett. He made his UFC debut against the Hammer, Matt Hamill, and he suffered a unanimous decision loss, 29-28 on all three judges' scorecards for Matt Hamill. Not the most impressive fight either. So the Canadians doing pretty good, 3-1 at UFC 152.